Alrighty, let's do a little bit of a trade recap here as to how we got long last night and stayed long for a little bit of this relief rally today. So, one of the things we've been talking about all week, and it's going to sound repetitive, but it's just the range we've been in here for the past near month or so now, as we've been in this range 74.73 to 76.27. I mentioned yesterday how if we are able to get under 74.73, we can begin a breakdown and potentially get a bit of a sell as we can leave this range and then it'd be time to get hands off. But that's not what happened. We actually put in a reversal today and held pretty strong with the support, and got a nice rally here today. And we had a couple of opportunities for some longs last night, so I wanted to kind of break down how we knew to get long here and how we were able to essentially just sit on a runner all day today, and be able to capture the entirety of this little V-shaped bounce today. So let's go over the first entry here. The first entry we had was we were looking for a failed breakdown of 74.73. This was the prior day low, and obviously a failed breakdown of that spot is always a high quality failed breakdown trap. What ended up happening is we actually never put in a sweep of this area. Instead, what happened was we just did a rare double bottom. And now that doesn't happen too often where we put in a double bottom, but in this case, we ended up basically just bouncing right at the low, and then carrying that momentum upwards. So definitely a rarer situation. Like I said, it doesn't happen too often. This is actually the trade that Adam took yesterday as well. And so ideally the way you want to do this is trading it the same way you would a failed breakdown, where you want to just hop in when you see that ES has strength upwards. And so that would probably be hopping in somewhere around 74.78 or so if holding for a few minutes. And if you were able to get that entry yesterday with that momentum, you got a nice evening long where you're able to get a couple of trims into the 74.90 low and then hold runners from there on out. Now, again, this is on a definitely more of a rarer situation. It doesn't happen too often. Usually around these sort of big lows, it's we're always going to be a bit more trappier, and it's not going to necessarily be as clean as just a double bottom bounce and out. So definitely is rare, but good to kind of note the example, and this is what Adam did yesterday. Now the other chance to get long here, and this is what I did here, was play the classic failed breakdown, and that would be of this 74.90 low. So this was a low we had set 74.90. It actually ended up being pretty much a two-touch shelf low here. We had two lows at 74.90, and so a failed breakdown of that would be a really good trade to potentially play as well, from seeing the momentum come out of the low of the range. So a couple of good things here. We actually got some nice acceptance of 74.90. At 7:30, we had a little bit of a rejection here, where price hit 74.90, sold off back down to the lows. It held the lows once again, for basically a third time here. 1, 2, 3. Held the lows, and then we made our way back up to 74.90. And at this point now, you have some acceptance at this level. You're just eyeing for a bit of a momentum. And somewhere around after about 9 p.m. or so, we started getting some momentum. It still was a little choppy for an hour or so, but then finally by 10:30, you saw some real clear momentum above the 74.90 low, and were able to get a couple of trims before it got too late last night. And that ultimately is what led the squeeze we got today, which was a little bit of a squeeze back up the levels after hitting and trapping range support exactly to the T. And so yeah, very nice trade, and it seems like everyone in the Discord was long today and had a pretty nice day after some sort of a long trade yesterday, either at 73 or the classic field breakdown at 90. So great session today for everyone. The big picture here still remains this 75-75 back test we have yet to complete today. So that is still something that is on the cards on the deck here for bulls to be able to get to. And then that'll be the major back test before we see if we get a little bit of a rejection there or some acceptance to potentially trend upwards towards the top end of the range.